It was a brittle autumn morning when she was left behind. A golden retriever with a honey-colored coat, snow-white markings splashed across her chest and paws, the kind of beauty someone once swore to love. Her name was Daisy. But names are fragile things when car doors slam, engines roar, and the asphalt of Blue Ridge Highway swallows the last glimpse of humanity. She ran. Of course she ran. Her cracked paws hammered the concrete, her hoarse barks echoing between the mountains. No one answered. Only the wind, carrying the scent of pine and gasoline, whispered a cruel truth. Daisy was alone. The first days were marked by the smell of damp earth and the bitter taste of hunger. Her once silky fur tangled into coarse mats, glued with mud and dead leaves. At night, the howls of coyotes kept her awake, her amber eyes glowing in the dark like tiny beacons. She walked on, not out of courage, but from an ancient instinct that hummed, "Move, survive, someone will come." But no one came. Daisy's journey became a litany of small tragedies, a paw sliced by shattered glass, acid rain burning her skin beneath the fur, days where she licked dew off rocks to fool her thirst, and always, always the road, long, endless. A scar on the world she crossed step by step, mile by mile, until her bloodied paws had traced 200 kilometers. Why 200 kilometers? Because that was the exact distance between where she was abandoned and, well, that's a story for later. For now, know this. Daisy wasn't just a lost dog. She was a survivor, a silent traveler whose paw prints whispered secrets not even she understood. But something shifted on the 14th day. The sweet smell of fresh bread hung in the air, mingled with a scent that made her heart race. Roasted meat. Daisy followed the invisible beacon of her nose, dragging herself off the highway into an oak grove. And there, beneath the shadow of a centuries-old tree, she found not a plate of food, not a new collar, but a scrap of blue fabric, faded, torn, still soaked with a smell that made her muscles tremble. It was his shirt, the man who'd abandoned her. Daisy lay down on the cloth, buried her snout into the fabric, and howled. A sound so deep and sorrowful even the crows stopped cawing. Because Daisy wasn't just starving. She was lost. Lost in a web of memories that made no sense. Hands that had petted her, voices that had laughed, promises that had shattered. And then the storm came. The sky collapsed in thunderclaps, and rain washed her tears away. Daisy didn't move. Why run? The road had already stolen everything, but it was in that moment, as she nearly surrendered, that fate, or something greater, chose to intervene. A yellow flashlight beam cut through the dark. Hurried footsteps crushed dry leaves, and a voice, soft as old wool, called out, "Oh, sweetheart, what have they done to you?" It was a voice Daisy had never heard. But for the first time in weeks, she recognized it. It was the voice of someone who wouldn't leave her behind. The voice belonged to a woman. Her hands, wrinkled as old parchment, trembled as they reached for Daisy, but there was no fear in those hands, only a quiet urgency, a lifetime of tending to broken things. Daisy flinched, her matted fur bristling. Humans had brought her here. Humans had left her to die. Yet this one smelled of lavender and freshly turned soil, a scent that didn't claw at her lungs like gasoline. "Easy now," the woman murmured, draping a woolen blanket over Daisy's shivering frame. "You're safe, little warrior." Warrior. The word clung to Daisy's bones as the woman lifted her, not with the rough grip of the man who'd tossed her from the car, but with the slow, swaying rhythm of a lullaby. Through the hammering rain, Daisy glimpsed a farmhouse. Its windows glowed like amber eyes in the dark. Inside, warmth seeped into her frozen paws. A fire crackled. The woman, Clara, Daisy would later learn, knelt on creaking knees. She offered not a bowl, but her own cupped palms filled with water. Daisy drank, each sip a rebellion against the memory of highway dew. Days blurred. Clara's hands became Daisy's compass. They smoothed ointment over her cuts, untangled knots from her fur, pressed warm cloths to her infected paw. At night, Clara sang, off-key melodies about mountains and long-lost loves. Daisy didn't understand the words, but the vibrations soothed her nightmares. Yet the ghost lingered. It lived in the blue shirt Clara found tucked beneath Daisy's blanket one morning. "Where'd you get this, huh?" Clara frowned, holding the fabric to the light. Daisy whined, nudging the shirt with her nose until it brushed Clara's wrist. The reaction was instant. Clara's breath hitched. Her eyes, pale as winter milk, widened. This was Henry's. Her thumb traced a faded logo on the collar, HL Construction. "My Henry. He's been gone 5 years now." Daisy cocked her head. Henry. The name tasted like thunder. Clara moved to the mantel, retrieving a framed photo. A man in a blue shirt stood laughing beside a younger Clara, his hand resting on the head of a golden retriever pup. "His dog, Buddy," Clara whispered, "ran off weeks after Henry's heart gave out. We searched." The pup in the photo had a honey coat, snow-white chest, amber eyes. Daisy stared. The storm returned that night, not in the sky, but in Daisy's blood. Whimpers tore from her throat as memories collided, Henry's calloused hands teaching her to fetch, his voice shouting, "Buddy," across fields, the day he didn't wake up, the new hands that dragged her to the car, the man who'd hissed, "Damn mutt won't stop howling," before the highway swallowed her. "Shh, I've got you." Clara rocked her, tears soaking into Daisy's fur. "You walked all that way for him, didn't you? My brave girl, my Buddy." The name fit like a healed bone. When dawn came, Clara drove them to town. The vet's scanner beeped over Daisy's shoulder blade. "Microchips registered to a Henry Lawson," the vet said. Clara's wedding band clinked against the metal table. "That's my husband?" The office held its breath. "This dog's been missing since 2018. Clara's fingers found Daisy's, no, Buddy's, paw. The road hadn't been 200 kilometers of chaos. It had been a pilgrimage, a crooked path home. "Henry always said you were magic," Clara whispered into Buddy's ear as they left. "Took you a while, but welcome home." Buddy leaned into her touch. The highway's song faded, replaced by a new rhythm, Clara's heartbeat steady as a metronome counting the time they had left. Seasons turned. Buddy learned the music of Clara's world, the creak of her porch swing at dawn, the metallic sigh of her antique coffee grinder, the way her breath hitched just before a cough. Her hands, though still gentle, shook more now. Arthritis, the vet said, common at her age. But Buddy knew better. It wasn't age that bent Clara's fingers. It was the weight of memories. They developed rituals. Every morning, Buddy nudged Clara's slippers to the bed, left one first, always. Every noon, she herded Clara to the garden, where soil-stained knees and sun-warmed fur shared secrets. Evenings were for the blue shirt. Clara would fold it neatly, place it on Buddy's bed, and whisper, "For the dreams." The dreams came often. In them, Henry walked the fields again, his laughter weaving through cornstalks. Buddy, No, Daisy ran beside him, paws unbloodied, lungs unburdened. But always the highway waited. The car door creaked. Henry's face melted into the stranger's. She'd wake, trembling, the shirt clutched in her jaws, Clara's hand already stroking her ears. "Same dream, girl," Clara would murmur. Buddy's lick was answer enough. One October day, a truck rattled up the driveway. A man emerged, younger than Henry, but older than the highway stranger, with HL Construction stitched on his cap. Buddy growled, low and primal, until Clara's palm settled between her shoulders. "Mrs. Lawson?" The man eyed Buddy warily. "We're repurposing your husband's old work shed. Found these." He held out a cardboard box. Inside lay a chewed rubber ball, a rusted dog tag, Buddy etched in cursive, and a Polaroid of Henry Midlaff, a golden pup leaping for his hat. Clara's tears fell silently. The man shifted, uncomfortable. "We'll, leave the shed standing. Seems important." When the truck left, Clara knelt in the dirt, the artifacts spread before Buddy. "You remember this?" She shook the ball. A buried instinct surged. Buddy caught it midair, the rubber bitter and familiar. Henry's voice boomed in her bones. "Atta girl, Bud!" Clara laughed, a sound as rare as winter fireflies. That night they didn't sleep. Clara lit every lamp, spread Henry's blue shirt across the kitchen table, and let Buddy drag out relics from her past. A frayed leash, a dented food bowl, a single work boot crusted with dry mud. Together, they built a shrine to what was and what had returned. "He'd have loved this," Clara said, pressing the Polaroid to her chest. "Loved you." But time, Buddy was learning, was a sly thief. Clara's steps slowed, her naps lengthened. Some mornings, Buddy brought the slippers only to find Clara already awake, staring at the wall where Henry's overalls once hung. The cough arrived with the first frost. It started small, a dry hack during breakfast. Then blood speckled Clara's handkerchief. Buddy nosed the crimson stains, whining. "Hush now," Clara chided, wiping her mouth. "We Lawsons don't quit easy." They didn't speak of the hospital forms that appeared on the table, the ones Clara hid under gardening catalogs. Instead, they walked, shorter routes now, past the graveyard where Henry lay. Clara would pause at his stone, fingers tracing dates. Buddy learned to sit motionless during these moments, her warmth a counterweight to the granite chill. One twilight, as fireflies blinked their Morse code, Clara slumped onto the porch steps. Buddy pressed against her, counting labored breaths. "Listen close," Clara gasped. "When I'm gone—" A growl cut her off. Not from Buddy, but deep within herself. Number, "Not again." Clara chuckled wetly. Stubborn thing, just like him. Her hand found Buddy's muzzle. "You'll keep watch, won't you, for the next lost soul?" Buddy licked the salt from her cheeks. The promise tasted of medicine and maple syrup. They stayed there till stars pricked the sky, two old warriors mapping constellations only they could see. The road had taught Buddy many things, how to starve, how to fear, how to run. But here, in the quiet between Clara's heartbeats, she learned the hardest lesson. How to stay. Clara left on a spring morning. Bud had known it would come, smelled it in the cloying sweetness of her medicine, felt it in the way her heartbeat fluttered like a moth trapped in glass. The hospice nurse called it peaceful. Buddy called it theft. They buried Clara beside Henry under a dogwood tree. Strangers came, neighbors, nurses, the construction worker who'd returned Henry's box. They patted Buddy's head, muttered good dog, through tears. She ignored them. Her vigil began at dusk. The farmhouse emptied. For weeks, Buddy guarded its shadows. She slept on Clara's bed, nose buried in the blue shirt, and waited. For what, she wasn't sure. Until the storm came. Rain lashed the fields like piano wires. Buddy paced the porch, old scars aching, when a whimper cut through the downpour. Faint, familiar. She froze, ears pricked. There, by the collapsed barn, a sodden lump of fur. The puppy was starved, ribs jutting like crooked fingers, its left paw bent unnaturally. But the eyes, amber, wide, mirroring her own from another lifetime. "Easy," Buddy growled, lowering her muzzle. The pup shrank back. Its collar read, Daisy. Coincidence? The road knew no such thing. Buddy nudged the trembling creature indoors. Her joints screamed, but she dragged blankets, licked matted fur clean, and offered Henry's dented bowl. The pup ate like it had forgotten how. Nightmares came. The pup thrashed, crying for hands that no longer came. Buddy curled around it, humming a sound Clara had once made, part lullaby, part broken engine. By dawn, the storm had passed. So had the worst of the fear. At Henry's grave, Buddy dug up treasures, his work glove, the rubber ball, Clara's woolen scarf. The pup watched, tail thumping weakly. "These," Buddy barked, placing the relics before the pup, "are your teachers." The pup sniffed the glove. "Who?" "The ones who stay." Days blurred into routine. Buddy taught the pup to hunt moles in the garden, to avoid poison ivy, to read the warning stench of gasoline. They left offerings at the graves, wildflowers, smooth stones, once a half-eaten squirrel. One evening, headlights sliced through the farmhouse drive. A family emerged, frazzled parents, a boy clutching a torn leash. "Daisy!" The boy lunged forward. The pup froze mid-chase with Henry's ball. Buddy stepped between them, baring teeth. "It's okay," the father said, kneeling. "We've been searching for months. She ran after my dad's funeral." Buddy studied his eyes. No lies there, just grief, old and new. The boy held out the leash. "We tried to keep her, but she kept running to Grandpa's old house. Then the storm." Buddy nudged the pup. "Go." "But you're alone," Daisy whined. Buddy glanced at Clara's window. The ghost of a laugh hung in the dust motes. "I'm never alone." As the truck vanished down the road, Buddy reclaimed her porch post. The wind carried new scents: diesel, fear, hope. Somewhere, another engine coughed. Another door creaked. Another set of paws would soon stumble up her drive. She arranged Henry's relics anew, ready. The road always sent pilgrims. Clara's voice whispered through the dogwood blossoms. "Atta girl, Bud." And so the keeper waited, her howl a beacon, her scars a map. For as long as the road kept stealing, she'd keep giving. For as long as love kept dying, she'd keep rising. Some called it sacrifice. Buddy called it coming home. Clara left when the dogwoods bloomed. Buddy felt it in the stillness. The absence of coughs, the clock's unchallenged ticking. They buried her beside Henry, their headstones twin sentinels under the oak. Strangers brought casseroles and pity. Buddy ignored them. Her vigil began at sundown, paws planted on the porch where Clara's rocker still creaked. The farmhouse decayed gracefully. Paint peeled into autumn hues. Mice chewed through Henry's toolbox. Buddy let them. At dawn, she limped to the dogwoods, dropping offerings. Clara's hairpin, a dented spoon, the Polaroid flecked with teeth marks. "She'll need these," she'd tell the wind. The storm arrived uninvited. Not rain, but a pickup truck spewing gravel. Buddy bristled, then froze. A whimper sliced through diesel fumes. High, broken, achingly familiar. Behind the tire crouched a shadow, golden fur matted with oil, amber eyes wide as headlights. A puppy, mirror image, ghost. Easy, Buddy rasped, joints screaming as she crouched. The pup recoiled, paw bent at a cruel angle. Its collar dangled, daisy. Memories detonated. Tires screeching. Hands shoving. Concrete burning. Buddy shook them off. Come. The pup trembled but followed, trailing bloodied prints. Inside, Buddy dragged Clara's quilt down, nudged Henry's bowl forward. The pup ate like it had forgotten food could be given, not stolen. Nightmares came. The pup thrashed, crying for hands that smelled of whiskey and regret. Buddy curled around it, humming Clara's lullaby, "You Are My Sunshine," translated to whines and rumbles. Dawn found them entwined, frost etching their fur. At Henry's grave, Buddy unearthed relics. His glove, Clara's scarf, the rubber ball frozen mid-bounce. The pup sniffed each, tail tentative. "This," Buddy barked, paw on the Polaroid, "is how we remember." "Hurts," the pup whined. "Yes, but it's how we stay." Days knit into ritual. Buddy taught the pup to track rabbits, dodge hawks, drink from the rain barrel, avoid algae, read tire growls, fear Fords. The pup learned fast, scars fading to silver streaks. One twilight, headlights speared the drive. A boy tumbled out, voice cracking. "Daisy!" The pup froze mid-leap for Henry's ball. Buddy stepped between them, lips peeled back. "Please," the man begged, tears cutting through dust. "She ran after Grandpa died. We've looked everywhere." Buddy studied his eyes, Henry's eyes diluted by generations but true. She nudged the pup. "Go." "You'll vanish," Daisy whined. Buddy glanced at the dogwoods. Petals swirled into Clara's laugh. "We never do." As tires faded, Buddy reclaimed her porch. The wind gossiped, diesel, fear, hope. Somewhere, an engine coughed. Another door creaked. Another soul stumbled toward the light. She arranged Henry's glove, Clara's scarf, the pup's torn collar. Ready, always ready. Winter came brittle and white. Buddy's breath fogged thinner each dawn. The mice brought her crumbs. The dogwoods bent low. They found her curled in Clara's bed, snow muffling the world. No fanfare, no machines. Just the quilt's embrace and the faintest scent of lavender. Spring thaw brought pilgrims, a tabby with singed whiskers, a hound missing an ear, a girl clutching a torn teddy bear. They ate from Henry's bowl, slept in Clara's quilt, left pebbles on Buddy's grave. And on the porch, a golden shadow waited, amber eyes tracing the road. Subscribe to light the path for more survivors. Every click fuels their journey home. Hit the bell. Together, we'll turn roads into lifelines.